Question
right.
on the screen.
What's
Who
the question?
will actually win the national championship?
To me, there's okay. I'm going to take you through this process of my small brain. I went to three teams. Okay, I narrowed it down to three. It feels like a kind of a year that it's going to be spread out. It feels like a kind of year that, the number one team in the coaches poll and the AP is not a surprise. Like Texas, their defense is going to be filthy. We'll keep them in every single game. Obviously, the offense, I don't care if it's Manning or not, Brent. Like, it's Sark regardless. Like, he's going to be really good. They found a bunch of transfers. They've obviously recruited at a high level too. So Texas was there. Clemson, obviously, not a surprise. Been all in on them all offseason, and all the reasons I already laid out. And then I really feel like Penn State's in this mix too. I just feel like they've got the ingredients in today's college football with all the experience, and they've got the scars, right? They got the scars from a year ago, and I think it could be a special season. But, I mean, if I have the tattoo on my back, like, I'm just sticking with it, man. Like, I'm staying all in. I think Clemson's just going to have a special year, and I do think that defense turns it around immediately. And I think they got some dudes at positions, man. Like at the most important positions, they've got some really, really good football players that are going to be a handful for a lot of people when they play. So, give me the Clemson Tigers to win the national championship this football season.
All right, so my process is I think back to last season and then the flip in the playoff structure where you have now the top four teams being the teams that get the bye. And I just have a feeling that that's going to be a story again. And that those teams are, maybe 3 out of the 4 lose because of the time away and the other team having a break and them getting back in the rhythm and playing again. So to me,
because all of them lost off the bye, right? Every single team lost last year off the bye.
Yep. So like that's one where I think you're going to see teams, and we look at what we've picked from a championship game standpoint, and I looked at 2 teams that I don't think are potentially going to play in their conference championship, but are going to meet in the national championship. And I think it's going to be teacher and then, sort of student. I think it's going to be Kirby Smart against Dan Lanning in the national championship. The point you made about Georgia's receivers, and this, by the way, this is not just me being Georgia homer guy. This is I think
you already crapped on Georgia, so people can't say anything.
Yes, exactly. I do think the receiver part of it is such a big deal for them this season. I think they got really, really good players there that are going to do great in their system, and depth. And I think depth in this sort of format is as important as anything. And give me the Dogs teacher beating the student, Kirby beating Dan Lanning. I am actually going. I don't think either of them play in their conference championship game, and I think we get a 7 versus 8, something like that kind of matchup in the national championship, much like we had last season.
So you went from a kind of I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you went from kind of a question mark to about Gunnar Stockton to now the weapons around him, and you're all in?
I think the results are going to be – I think you're just going to get better quarterback play. I'm not – it's not going to look like, first-round pick, but quite frankly, I think Kirby has actually excelled with guys who aren't necessarily first-round picks. Jake Fromm wasn't that.
Stetson Bennett obviously wasn't that.
Was not that. But so and all the things that with this, to me, there's a certain level of talent all these teams, and the 3 that you mentioned have that. I think these other 2 are the ones that kind of get into that sort of group with the just sheer volume of talent and over time. And I think I think the biggest thing is the bye. I think you're going to have some of these 7 and 8 teams go on the road or go in these neutral site games because they played and they're good, and the other team's going to be rusty, and you're going to get upsets like you saw last year.
Yep.